Welcome back to Morning Dose. This Tuesday morning, we are going to jump right into the daily struggle of being a parent. We all know it's the most important job in the world, also the most challenging, right? So welcome to today's parenting puzzle.
Yeah, this one a little bit of a heavier story than we normally do on Parenting Puzzle, but this is an important story, I think. A jury of 8 people will decide the fate of a young girl who pled guilty in that Slender Man stabbing case. You may remember that from a couple years ago. Starting today, jurors will hear evidence for Anissa Weir. She was just 12 years old in May of 2014 when she and another girl carried out a plan to kill their 6th grade classmate. Well, that girl did survive the stabbing, but police say they stabbed their friend to please a fictional character called Slender Man. Weir pleaded guilty to attempted second-degree homicide, but maintains she's not responsible due to a mental disease or defect. A plea agreement calls for Weir to spend at least 3 years in a mental hospital if she is found to have been mentally ill during that stabbing. But if she is not found to be mentally ill, they're going to say she's going to face 10 years in prison. So this is going to be an interesting decision to see how the jury decides. But this also raises another important question. How do we talk to our kids about that line between fact and fiction when they are online? So we want to bring in Carrington Cunnington now, a certified parent coach, to kind of help us talk through some of these things. Carrington, with this story kind of being at the forefront of the news right now, it raises the question of how do we help our children navigate these more vague areas online in situations like what this girl experienced with this so-called character named Slender Man?
I think what's important to keep in mind with the internet and our kids is relationships and environment. The environment that our kids grow up in is going to profoundly impact them. And if their environment is primarily or largely virtual, we're going to have a harder time having an influence on them. The good news is, as parents, we are in the position to be that primary relationship for our kids, to be the primary influencer of them and the developing of their character. So I would really encourage parents, focus on that relationship, keep the relationship strong, keep communication strong, and you'll be able to start seeing signs if your kid is getting wrapped up or enveloped in online things that they shouldn't be.
Right, and I think sometimes we think that children, even at 12 years old, of course, by that point, you should know right from wrong, absolutely. But I think sometimes we expect them to have the same wisdom and foresight that as adults have to be able to decipher these particular instances that they might find themselves online. What are some good questions that we can be asking them to find out if they are being influenced?
Well, I would back it up a little bit and remind parents that children, 12-year-old children, 13, 14, 15, 16-year-old children are still children. Their brains are still developing. They're not going to make decisions and judgment calls with the same maturity, intellect, foresight that an adult will do. I think that gets lost a lot in today's sort of technology-saturated culture. We just assume that the tools that we use, we should introduce them to our children at a young age or even in adolescence and assume that they're going to use them the way we do. And that's just simply not the case. So I would really stress that parents need to recognize the pull that these devices have on our kids and to be cautious about introducing them in the first place.
All right, Carrington, what are your initial thoughts of just hearing this story as it's kind of going, the jury's now going to be able to make a decision on this. What are your thoughts on this particular case?
I just think it's devastating. I think there are no winners here. Everyone is a victim in some way. Certainly the girls who were perpetrators, we need to address that. But as 12-year-olds, I would encourage people to show compassion, empathy, sympathy, and be problem solvers rather than throw around blame and just make them into criminals.